Welcome to part 23 of the Ultimate Unsolved Mysteries Iceberg. In this series, we deep dive cases including true crime, mysterious disappearances, myths and legends, strange events, internet mysteries, and more. The disappearance of Michael Dunahee. The Michael Dunahee case was and is one of Canada's most extensive missing child investigations. On March 24, 1991, 4-year-old Michael vanished from a school playground in Victoria, British Columbia, Canada, during his mother's flag football game. Despite being only meters away and out of sight for mere seconds, Michael disappeared without a trace. The Victoria police immediately treated Michael's case as an abduction and mobilized a massive search involving all detectives from the department. They sifted through hundreds of tips, none of which led to any meaningful leads. Unfortunately, technology limitations at the time hampered the investigation. There was no meaningful video surveillance, and DNA testing was not available. Over the years, there have been numerous sightings and reports, yet none have led to Michael. Notable incidents occurred in 2006, 2011, and 2013, when young men matching Michael's description were subject to DNA testing. All these young men were ruled out, though I suspect this was already known by the young men themselves. Notably, in 2009, Milwaukee police discovered a missing person poster of Michael in the home of a deceased individual, but this clue did not further the investigation. In 2021, police released an age-enhanced sketch of what Michael might look like as an adult. This revived public interest and led to an influx of tips through a newly established online portal. Also, I've included the sketch here, and I've included a link in the description to the tip portal through the Victoria Police Department. However, despite these efforts, Michael remains missing. The case significantly impacted the Victoria community, leading to increased awareness and precautionary measures against child abduction. Michael's parents, Bruce and Crystal, are still extremely involved in the case and continue to advocate for their son 33 years after his disappearance. If you have any information regarding Michael Dunahee's disappearance, I'm asking that you please contact the Victoria Police Department at vicpd.ca or submit a tip online. As discussed earlier, the Victoria Police Department has a dedicated online tip submission page, which I've added to the description of this video as well. The Falcon Lake Incident. This case is a recommendation from Discord community member Vsauce. Thanks for this interesting case. The Falcon Lake Incident, occurring on May 20th, 1967, near Falcon Lake, Manitoba, Canada, remains one of the most discussed UFO sightings in history. Stefan Michalak, an amateur prospector and former military policeman, encountered what he described as a UFO while searching for quartz veins. His detailed account and the physical evidence presented make this incident uniquely compelling and difficult to dismiss outright. Michalak reported seeing two cigar-shaped objects descending near him. One landed close enough for him to inspect, which he promptly did. He described the object as metallic, with a smooth surface devoid of seams, approximately 30 feet in length and 15 feet in height, and emitting a glow and heat reminiscent of hot stainless steel. Attempting communication in English, Polish, Russian, and German yielded no response. Michalak's attempt to touch the object resulted in his glove melting due to the intense heat. As he walked away, the craft emitted a blast of gas, causing severe burns to his abdomen and setting his clothes on fire. After his alleged encounter, Michalak was spotted by Constable Solotki of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Constable Solotki assumed that Michalak was under the influence of alcohol due to his disoriented state. However, Solotki did not detect any smell of alcohol on Michalak. Solotki's report suggests he offered to help Michalak and even proposed taking him back to Falcon Beach to seek medical treatment, which Michalak declined. However, Mikulak's memory ran contrary to Solotki's official RCMP report. Contrary to Solotki's report, Mikulak felt that the constable was dismissive and refused to offer the necessary assistance. Upon returning to Winnipeg, Mikulak sought medical help, where he was admitted to the emergency room and where he received treatment for his burns and other symptoms. Despite suffering from symptoms consistent with radiation poisoning, tests conducted for radiation poisoning were inconclusive. Mikulak's physical condition deteriorated in the aftermath of the encounter. Investigations into the incident included a stay at the world-famous Mayo Clinic, where he was deemed of sound mind. Further, doctors at the Mayo Clinic found a drastic drop in lymphocyte count, providing some evidence of radiation poisoning. I note that Mikulak's claim was exhaustively investigated by both Canadian and American authorities. I question why American authorities would be investigating this case if Canadian authorities hadn't invited them in to be a part of the process. As such, I have to think that there is something more to the story than the official records let on. All publicly available reports on the incident indicate that the results of the Canadian and American investigations were, quote, inconclusive. Skeptics have proposed several explanations for the Falcon Lake incident, including it being a hoax. Other explanations include a case of misidentification of a conventional aircraft, a natural phenomena, or a psychological episode potentially exacerbated by alcohol consumption. Despite these theories, no explanation fully accounts for all aspects of Mikulak's account and the physical evidence. Hi, Brazil. This case was recommended by community member Lauren Redmond. Thanks for realizing just how much I love Phantom Island Unsolved Mysteries. The myth of High Brazil is often referred to as Ireland's Atlantis, and in a moment you'll see why this is the case. The legend describes it as a mysterious island, visible only once every 7 years, shrouded in mist and located somewhere off the west coast of Ireland. The mythological aspects of High Brazil are deeply rooted in Irish culture, with the island often associated with enchantment and mystery. It's said to be a place beyond the reach of normal human experience, inhabited by gods, magicians, or priests harboring ancient wisdom. Such legends resonate with the narrative of the island appearing and disappearing mysteriously, reinforcing its status as an unattainable paradise. The earliest cartographic mentions of High Brazil date back to the 14th century. Genoese cartographer Angelino de Dall'Orto is credited with being the first to map the island in 1325, situating it west of Ireland. Successive maps, including further Genoese and Venetian maps of the 15th century, continued to depict the island, though its exact location varied from one map to another. Perhaps most famously, High Brazil appears on the Piri Reis map, regarded as being one of the most accurate pre-modern maps in existence. There were reports that sailors and adventurers saw the island, which contributed to its persistent inclusion on maps despite no concrete evidence of its existence. Throughout the years, High Brazil was linked with several historical expeditions and figures. Expeditions from Bristol in the late 15th century sought the island without success. Later, explorers like John Cabot were rumored to have found it, further intertwining the legend with the age of exploration generally. Despite extensive searches and expeditions, no physical evidence of High Brazil has ever been confirmed with any certainty. Despite this lack of confirmation, High Brazil appeared in various forms and locations on maps until the late 19th century. It is generally considered a phantom island, a product of folklore, navigational errors, and perhaps a collective desire for undiscovered lands. However, there's an obscure theory from the 19th century that I would like to take a moment to revive. The Porcupine Bank, a submerged landmass west of Ireland, has been proposed as the real-world counterpart of the mythical High Brazil. Discovered in 1862 and visible at extreme low tides, this shoal is situated approximately 200 kilometers from Ireland, matching some historical descriptions of High Brazil's location. Early maps and tales often depicted High Brazil to the west of Ireland, which, quite conveniently for this theory, is the location of Porcupine Bank. The theory is supported by geological evidence, such as the presence of shallow water shells, suggesting that this area could have once been above water. Moreover, historical accounts and folklore describe High Brazil as appearing and disappearing mysteriously, a trait that could correspond to the natural transient visibility of the Porcupine Bank. Despite these connections, the exact relationship remains speculative, as definitive proof linking Porcupine Bank directly to the High Brazil legend has yet to be found. Personally, I support this connection, and I would speculate that the other facts related to High Brazil have just been added on by way of legend over the years. Let me know of any mysterious phantom islands you would like me to cover in the comments below. I'm actually waiting to discover a case about a phantom island containing a lost city, which also happens to be the site of a lost gold mine. If you've watched this series this far, you may have gotten a sensible chuckle out of that joke. Jimmy here, the YouTuber behind the Lazy Chill Zone channel, asking you for a quick favor. If you're enjoying my content, please smash the like and subscribe buttons and the notification bell. And yes, I've been dying to say smash in this context, and no, it won't happen again. Also consider signing up for a YouTube membership or joining the Patreon. In particular, your support allows me to tackle content which has the risk of getting videos demonetized. Also, join the Discord community. We've got nearly 50 people in there now, and it's great. The link's in the description. The Persian Princess Mummy. This is a recommendation from patron Monoxide Wendigo. Thank you for yet another great suggestion for this series. The Persian Princess Mummy case is perhaps the most fascinating archaeological hoax you've never heard of. Discovered in Pakistani Baluchistan in October 2000 during a slaying investigation, the Persian Princess Mummy quickly drew international attention due to its purported ancient Persian origins. Allegedly belonging to a royal lineage, possibly even a daughter of the great Persian king Cyrus the Great, this mummy caused conflict over ownership. The mummy sparked a dispute between Pakistan, Iran, and the Taliban over its rightful ownership, each laying claims based on historical, territorial, or cultural grounds. The mummy was initially identified through a gold plaque bearing cuneiform inscriptions, suggesting a connection to Persian royalty. This was particularly sensational because Persian tradition did not typically include mummification, which is more closely associated with ancient Egyptian customs. The unique case thus presented a historical anomaly with theories that the individual might have been an Egyptian married into Persian royalty or an Egyptian adopted into Persian culture. However, the narrative began to unravel when discrepancies in the mummy's condition and the accompanying artifacts were noted. The text on the breastplate, which was a significant piece of evidence for its ancient origin, was incorrect, indicating that the creators were not well versed in ancient Persian script. Furthermore, scientific analyses, including carbon dating, CT scans, and chemical testing, revealed that the mummy was a modern creation. The body itself was found to only be a few years old at the time of discovery. These findings suggested that not only was the mummy a forgery, but it might also be the remains of a recent murder victim. Adding weight to this theory was evidence of blunt force trauma and the removal of internal organs. The investigation revealed that the mummy might have been a contemporary woman, approximately 21 to 25 years old, whose body was manipulated post-mortem to appear ancient. This disturbing twist pointed towards a criminal effort to sell a fabricated artifact on the black market for millions of dollars, exploiting the lucrative trade in antiquities. As for the identity of the young woman known as the quote, Persian Princess, that part remains unknown at present. Further, no one is entirely certain how she met her end. Though she is assumed to have been slain, others have posited that she may have been accidentally struck by a vehicle and killed, with her body used for this purpose opportunistically. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find any clear information on what happened to the individuals involved in the likely slaying. Arrests were made in 2001, but the story appears to have faded quickly, though I suspect there are additional sources in other languages such as Farsi or Urdu. And as a final postscript, in 2008, a charitable organization was given her body to give her a proper funeral. But let's get back to the hoax for 1 second before moving on. While it is easy to simply blame the actual perpetrators of the hoax and likely slaying and move on from this case, I'm going to delve a bit deeper. The Persian princess hoax required a collective suspension of disbelief among all parties involved. Initially, the mummy's sensational discovery under extremely suspicious circumstances ought to have set off alarm bells right away. Why were people being investigated for a slaying just happening to be harboring an ancient mummy? That would have been the first question I would have been asking as an outsider not acting out of nationalist fervor or the desire for academic greatness. The narrative associated with the Persian princess appealed both to national pride and scholarly ambition, blinding everyone involved to the glaring inconsistencies. Archaeologists and the authorities seemingly initially embraced the find without rigorous verification due to the allure of a groundbreaking discovery and potential financial gain. This collective willful blindness ignored established archaeological practices, such as the detailed scrutiny of provenance and the application of multidisciplinary scientific tests. And in terms of that last point, one must question why the rigorous scientific testing only occurred after there had been significant suspicion that the mummy was a forgery. Also, the international dispute over the mummy's origins between Pakistan, Iran, and the Taliban fueled another narrative that overshadowed the need for cautious scientific inquiry. All nations involved were struck with nationalistic fever and the desire to accrue the cultural prestige associated with the Persian Princess Mummy, the Sakhalin Island woolly whale. In June 2015, the residents of Sakhalin Island, Russia, encountered a peculiar sight, a large carcass washed ashore, exhibiting characteristics not typically associated with marine animals. Also, trust me, if you're just listening to this right now, you're going to want to pause for a moment and look at this picture. If you're driving, pull over for a second, and if you're at work and can't pull your phone out, this is your time to go for a washroom break. This creature was over 11 feet long and 4 feet wide, with distinct features such as a beak, white fur-like tissue, and bones protruding along its sides. Upon its discovery, it was theorized that the creature could potentially be a Ganges River dolphin, though this was quickly dismissed due to size issues, as well as the Ganges River dolphin being a freshwater dolphin. Initially, the presence of fur led to significant speculation and intrigue, with various theories surfacing regarding the creature's origins and classification. Well, despite how this mystery is generally presented, the solution is actually out in plain sight. Sakhalin Island, lying close to Japan and forming part of Russia, is known for its rich biodiversity, including various species of whales. The island's proximity to rich marine ecosystems make it a site where marine creatures can often be found washed ashore due to natural circumstances or human-related activities. The initial assumption was that the Sakhalin Island woolly whale was an entirely new species, given its unusual appearance. The fur covering the carcass particularly puzzled onlookers and scientists alike. However, upon closer examination and consultation with marine biologists, it was identified as another specimen of the Baird's beaked whale, albeit in a state of advanced decomposition. The fur turned out to be decomposing connective tissue and fibers, which is not uncommon in decomposing marine animals. At any rate, the photograph of this supposed creature is still widely circulated as a rather convincing cryptid, despite the mystery being solved. Also, as an aside, I had no idea the Baird's beaked whale was a thing. It's basically just a 40-foot dolphin as far as I can tell. The Van Meter Visitor. Originating from the small town of Van Meter, Iowa, the Van Meter Visitor describes a series of strange events that took place over several nights in late September and early October of 1903. Witnesses described encounters with a large, mysterious creature, leading to widespread fear and speculation. The creature was later dubbed the Van Meter Visitor by the local press. The appearance of the Van Meter Visitor has been likened to that of a pterodactyl, with some reports suggesting the creature stood about 9 feet tall. It was described as fast, with features including bat wings and a horn on its head with a bright spotlight-like end. The creature also emitted a foul odor, described as smelling like rotting flesh, which was so potent that it could allegedly render a person unconscious. According to local residents, the creature descended from a telephone pole in a manner reminiscent of a parrot climbing down a pole. I imagine it going sort of vertical. This entity then took off. Some accounts say it flew, others say it walked, heading towards the old coal mine on the outskirts of town. And to make matters worse for the town, the creature wasn't alone. Subsequent sightings reported that it was accompanied by a second creature of similar appearance. The two emerged from the old mine, emitting disturbing sounds that the Des Moines Daily News described as, quote, Satan and a regiment of chimps coming forth for a battle. The townsfolk decided to form a posse and bring these creatures to justice. The posse confronted the two creatures in town and forced the entities to flee back to the local mine where they had been shacking up. When the creatures returned to the mine after being confronted by armed townsfolk, they were met with a barrage of bullets, which reportedly had no effect on them. Following this, the townspeople decided to seal off the mine, hoping to trap the creatures within. Unsurprisingly, after being entombed in the mine, there were no further sightings of these creatures. Theories about the Van Meter visitor's identity vary widely. Some theorists suggest that the sightings were the result of a case of mistaken identity. Common proposals include great horned owls, large bats, or great blue herons. These could have been misinterpreted as something more sinister in low light conditions, and the light sources at the time would have mostly been torches, which cast long shadows. The heron, for instance, stands over 4 feet tall with a 6-foot wingspan, and its silhouette could resemble the creature's reported features in the dark. And of course, owls have the ability to puff out their feathers and generate horrific sounds, which causes, quote, owl misidentifications, common amongst cryptids. A theory which I consider highly unlikely is that the Van Meter visitors were actually humans utilizing a flashlight or a headlamp in an era when such technology was new and startling. This theory suggests that the creature's nocturnal activities on rooftops and its single beam of light could be attributed to a human thief or prowler rather than an unknown cryptid. Additional speculative theories include the possibility that the visitor was a dinosaur or other prehistoric creature that had somehow survived underground. Under this theory, the creatures emerged due to disturbances from mining activities. In my view, this probably makes the best movie plotline, but obviously there's no evidence for this. Further, it has also been speculated that the creatures were interdimensional or extraterrestrial beings. In my view, this is likely a simple case of an owl misidentification overlaid upon mass hysteria, overlaid with a further layer of sensationalistic media coverage. Either that, or it was an interdimensional dinosaur that shoots lasers from its head. Exercise your own judgment. Zeno's dichotomy paradox. Zeno's dichotomy paradox is a classical philosophical problem originating from Zeno of Elea, a 5th century BC Greek thinker. The dichotomy paradox is articulated through the scenario of motion, where, for any movement to occur, an object must first cover half the distance to its destination. This process repeats infinitely, as each subsequent movement requires reaching the halfway point of the remaining distance. In theory, this creates an endless division of distances, suggesting that starting or completing any movement is impossible, since one would need to complete an infinite number of tasks. This conclusion posits that motion is an illusion, as it seems to be logically impossible to traverse an infinite sequence of steps in finite time. However, the resolution to this paradox and others like it has evolved over the millennia, especially with the advent of mathematical theories, particularly calculus. Zeno's observations unwittingly laid the groundwork for the concept of limits, central to calculus, which was developed millennia later. Using limits, this means that despite the infinite number of steps, the total distance covered is finite and equals 1 unit. This mathematical solution refutes the paradox by demonstrating that an infinite number of actions can indeed sum up to a finite distance, allowing for motion and reaching the endpoint. The concept of limits is crucial here. It tells us that as the number of steps increases indefinitely, the sum of the distances covered, each step becoming progressively smaller, approaches a finite limit. Thus, even though the series of steps is infinite, the distance does not become infinitely large. Instead, it converges to a specific value, 1 unit. So you may be asking, if this paradox is resolved, why is it included in an Unsolved Mysteries series? Well, this paradox is still presented as an unsolved mystery in many contexts, even though the sum of human knowledge conquered this paradox centuries ago. Further, the paradox stood unresolved for well over 2,000 years. The concept appears to be easy to explain today, based upon our present sum of human knowledge. However, without the core concepts of calculus, developed by two of the greatest minds in human history, Isaac Newton and Gottfried Leibniz, it wouldn't be so. For instance, Zeno, no matter his level of intellect, could simply never produce the solution I just explained to you for this paradox. And to tie it back to Isaac Newton, this is the reason that he was acutely aware that he was only able to make the discoveries he did by, quote, standing on the shoulders of giants. Anyway, let me know in the comments below if you enjoy philosophical and mathematical entries in this series, and if so, I'll include more. The Hokkaido Wolf. The Hokkaido wolf is an allegedly extinct subspecies of gray wolf, once endemic to Japan and the Russian Far East. They lived in Hokkaido, Sakhalin, the Kuril Islands, and parts of the Kamchatka Peninsula. Importantly, the Hokkaido wolf must not be confused with the Japanese wolf, a similarly extinct wolf found in other parts of Japan which has now ascended to cryptid status. The Hokkaido wolf's extinction is attributed primarily to human activities during the Meiji Restoration, a period marked by Japan's rapid modernization and westernization, starting in the late mid-19th century. The physical attributes of the Hokkaido wolf resembled those of its North American and Asian gray wolf relatives. It stood above 2.5 feet at the shoulders and weighed between 70 to 80 pounds, with a large head, strong jaws, and muscular body. The Ainu people, indigenous to the regions where the Hokkaido wolf lived, revered the wolf as a deity named Horkyu Kamui, which translates as the howling god. And yeah, we're all thinking it, aren't we? A wolf named the howling god sounds pretty metal. The Ainu held ceremonies and had religious practices that highlighted their respect for the wolf, distinguishing it significantly from their domestic dogs. The primary cause of the Hokkaido wolf's extinction was the introduction of American-style ranching in Hokkaido. The Meiji government sought to modernize Japanese agriculture, which led to the importation of livestock and the consequent increase in wolf versus farmer conflicts. This situation prompted the government to declare war on wolves and deem them as pests. Methods such as wolf poisoning, along with a bounty system, were employed extensively, leading to the species' eventual extinction around 1889. Additional factors such as the decline in deer populations, a primary food source for the wolves, due to overhunting and habitat loss, further exacerbated the wolves' decline. Despite its extinction, there have been unverified sightings of the Hokkaido wolf up until the present day, leading to speculation about its complete disappearance. However, naysayers have attributed these reports to wolf-dog hybrids, rather than pure specimens of the Hokkaido wolf. Interestingly, the Hokkaido wolf may have persisted in Sakhalin up until the middle of the 20th century. Also, there remains the possibility that the Hokkaido wolf may still exist in the remote regions of Kamchatka in the Russian Far East. Despite its supposed extinction, there have been unverified sightings and reports suggesting that the wolf could have survived, particularly in less inhabited areas like Kamchatka. The Kamchatka Peninsula is known for its vast and rugged wilderness, much of which remains untouched and scarcely populated. Further, the dense forests, harsh climate, and limited human activity make Kamchatka an ideal location for a small surviving population of these wolves to exist unnoticed. This remote area provides a potential refuge for wildlife, including the descendants of the Hokkaido wolf. Anyway, let's hope that a population of Hokkaido wolves is out there somewhere, living their best wolf lives. Are we alone in the universe? Whether we are alone in the universe is one of the fundamental questions humans have grappled with since we had the ability to understand the concept of the universe itself. Famously, the Drake equation, formulated by Frank Drake in 1961, serves as a probabilistic tool to estimate the number of communicative extraterrestrial civilizations within our galaxy. The equation takes into account factors such as the number of stars, the fraction of those stars that have planets, and the likelihood of life and technological civilizations developing on those planets. Further modifications of this equation have been made, focusing instead on how often technological capable species might have arisen in the observable universe's history. In contrast, the rare Earth hypothesis posits that the conditions on Earth enabling complex life are exceptionally rare in the universe. According to this hypothesis, although simple life forms like microbes might be widespread, the hypothesis argues that complex life is exceedingly rare due to the multitude of precise conditions required. The Fermi paradox deepens the mystery by pointing out the contradiction between the high probability of extraterrestrial civilization's existence and the lack of evidence for them. Solutions to the paradox vary from suggesting that intelligent life is rare and that technological civilizations are short-lived, or that they exist, but we have not yet detected them. Further, the dark forest hypothesis, derived from science fiction, offers a grim solution to the Fermi paradox, suggesting that civilizations remain silent to avoid detection by potentially hostile entities. Under this hypothesis, civilizations that don't stay quiet get eaten up, perhaps quite literally. Another potential solution for the Fermi paradox is that humans are the first beings in the history of the universe to reach our present technological state. In my view, this seems improbable, but of course it's not impossible. If you haven't done it already, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Also, check out the Patreon and the YouTube membership. Your support allows me to take on more difficult topics that risk demonetization. Remember to hit the playlist to see dozens of hours of unsolved mysteries. Shout out to my patrons Kazakh Cutie, Kurt the Squirt, Monoxide Wendigo, Jeffer Metcalf, Z-Volts, Director Delta, Unknown Delusions, and Blasphemoose. Also, big shout out to YouTube members Jordan All and Syntax Nexus. Also to every viewer and listener, I love you a ton, and you make this all possible. I'm not exaggerating when I say that without you, this channel wouldn't exist. Until next time, stay safe and healthy. Peace out, everyone.